Hello, welcome to this video. Today I will be talking about how I was able to get accepted into the Film and Media Studies Master's Degree program at Columbia University. In this video I will be mainly focusing on the autobiographical essay, the two academic pieces that I needed to submit alongside the rest of my application materials, my education prior to applying for this program, and a bit about my background and my work experience. I'm Iranian Canadian. I'm 23. I finished high school in Vancouver, Canada in 2019, and I immediately went ahead to do a bachelor's degree in film studies at King's College London in the UK. My bachelor's degree was partially interrupted by the pandemic, but that is where I gained the majority of my knowledge around film studies and media studies and film theory, and I became familiar with the works of people like Andrei Bazin, Dziga Vertov, Gilles Deleuze, and a bunch of other film theorists and critics and film-related philosophers. When I was studying at King's College, I also got the opportunity to attend some film festivals around Europe and to do some journalism on behalf of some film magazines. My experience with film festivals and writing for magazines also opened up a bunch of doors for me that didn't just give me opportunities but also allowed me to kind of recognize places like Columbia University and other corners of the world where a lot of film majors and a lot of people who want to study film also resort to. After finishing up my bachelor's degree at King's College, I went ahead to do a master's degree in creative writing at Birkbeck University of London. During my time at Birkbeck University of London, I mainly was able to grow my creative writing skills, especially in terms of the writing style of creative nonfiction. I developed myself around writing pieces that were not necessarily fiction, but were still creative. So writing about either politics or psychology in a way where it would still be interesting to the reader as someone who is not interested in psychology or politics. And I feel like that really helped me put together my written pieces for applying for this program. During my time at Birkbeck and King's College, when I was living in London, I was also fortunate enough to be able to meet some of the coolest professors I've ever met in my life, and three of them actually ended up writing the references that I needed to write and submit for applying for the Film and Media Studies Master's Degree program at Columbia University. Alongside my education, I have also been educating myself on psychology, especially modern psychology, and on philosophy, Eastern philosophy, and bits of anthropology and some related fields. Although I don't hold a degree in any of these fields that I mentioned, I have consumed like hours and like days of material on these subjects, and I often integrate that self-made understanding around some of these subjects into my film/media studies related work and essays that I write. And that is also where my creative writing skills kind of come in handy, because I can easily combine all of these things together, say what I want to say, and still kind of keep it interesting and creative. I'm also a personal trainer, which is not really related to these fields, but I deeply do care for my mind and body. I feel like that also does add to my approach and my writing style. I have also noticed that when my mind is at a healthy place, I can write better and express myself better. And that is also something that I mentioned in my autobiographical essay. The autobiographical essay is the 6-page piece that you need to write in order to kind of like present yourself to the people that are reading your application, so that they can get an idea of who you are, what your goals are, what your passions are, and what you've been through and what you've done, and how you would be beneficial for this program and how this program would also be beneficial for you. I mentioned everything about where I was born, what my parents were doing when I was born, what type of environments I got raised in, what type of schools I attended, how I was introduced to writing and films and music, and how those things kind of remain an essential part of who I am. I also obviously briefly mentioned a bit of my knowledge around the area of film studies, with mentioning like Andrei Bazin and Deleuze and some other film theorists. I also talked about the intergenerational trauma that I have that is intertwined with Iranian politics, and how Iranian cinema is also a medium where a lot of directors and independent directors use to express a lot of the things with a cryptic, metaphorical, cinematic language that I guess a lot of Iranians wouldn't necessarily be able to express without that medium. At the end of my autobiographical essay, I also did mention that if I do get into this program, I want to pursue a PhD after. And I genuinely do. I want to turn this giant idea that I have into something big and hopefully make it useful not just for myself, but for the future of the film industry and the, I guess, film academic realm. If I can. It's a dream that I have and I'm kind of working towards it. The autobiographical essay is also something that I approached as if I was writing a story. I didn't approach it as if I was necessarily just writing a tick list of the things that I've done and the things that I have. I kind of tried to really align it with who I actually am. And I wrote it as if I was writing a story about my life using my creative writing skills. So the two academic pieces that you need to submit alongside the rest of your application are supposed to illustrate the fact that you can carry out thoughts and papers on the subject that you're applying for. So the first piece that I submitted was a small portion of the dissertation that I wrote during my time at King's College London. This piece was about deconstructing the Iranian identity using 3 different eras of Iranian cinema of the past 50 years of Iran's history, and I kind of broke down the identity using religious themes in film, national themes in films, and other themes by independent directors around how difficult life is in Iran and what types of humanitarian aid might be needed for change to happen in certain parts of society. And the second piece that I submitted was a piece that I specifically wrote for applying for this program. This piece was a psychoanalytical piece based around this idea that cinema is a tool that can allow people to break the mental shackles that have been placed on them by systems that use ideological enforcement to shape the population into a very specific, group of people. I kind of used 3 of my favorite films like Whiplash, 500 Days of Summer, and Dune to break down this idea and to also dive deeply into the psychology of those films. Also, those 3 films are films that really specifically resonated with who I was at the time when I was watching them and kind of the things that I was going through. So I consumed so many video essays and read so much. So yeah, that is mainly the things that I used to apply. I'm going to dedicate the last bit of this video to some of my unfair advantages. Number 1, I was raised around a lot of individuals who were either journalists or a part of the Iranian film industry, or a part of the Canadian film industry, or even a part of the American film industry. I obviously didn't grow up around Brad Pitt or Martin Scorsese, but I did grow up around a lot of people who were just familiar with film and how this world kind of functions and what is deemed valuable in some of these industries and in some of these academic realms. The other unfair advantage is the fact that since a really young age, I was fortunate enough to be around an environment where my peers were okay with me partially pursuing some of these creative muscles and not just mainly sticking to academia. And I think that also gave me a massive head start compared to a lot of people who want to just get into film. Just to mention, my mark for my bachelor's degree was heavily affected by the pandemic and by the psychological ups and downs that I went through, especially during the second year of my bachelor's degree at King's College London. And one of the professors who was writing one of my references as a part of this application was actually telling me that, hey, there's a chance of me actually not being able to get in because my mark is not high enough. And that got me kind of worried, but then I did get in. So even if you don't have perfect marks, you should still shoot your shot and you should still try to present yourself and who you really are in your autobiographical essay and in your written pieces. The last thing that I'm going to mention is that I made sure that my entire application actually resonated who I really was. So all of the academic pieces, the autobiographical essay, my education, and the way I kind of mentioned them was quite symmetrically aligned. And I feel like that is a massive strength, because chances are a lot of the people who apply for, such programs at such universities have really good marks and are really hardworking people. The best way to make sure you have a chance at winning a competition amongst these people is to kind of rely on yourself, your own experiences, and who you really are. In my autobiographical essay, I really did mention the fact that I'm someone who doesn't even drink coffee, who doesn't even drink alcohol, doesn't even smoke cigarettes. And if I have a bit of money, I'm gonna grab my backpack and travel, to a hostel at whatever part of the world, to have fun there, but to kind of learn more about the world. And I actually genuinely do that. I backpack and I go to hostels in some really grim conditions sometimes, but it kind of teaches me a lot about the world. And that's something that I mentioned on my essay, and it somehow helped me get in. Anyhow, I hope you found this video helpful. Definitely make sure to leave comments around any questions that you have. I would really appreciate it if you can leave a like on this video if you want to, if it actually did help you out. And if I'm talking too fast, or if I mentioned something in a very confusing way, I've mentioned it in the comment sections. I really appreciate feedback. Best of luck with your applications, and I do hope that you get into whatever program you desire. Yeah, have a good one.